With the Modern Warfare 2 beta officially being released, whether you want to hear it or not, I felt it kind of important to share my opinion on how I personally feel about the game, and even more importantly, how I feel it's going to work with Warzone 2. Before we dive in, I find it's best to remember the two games were developed side by side. They were built to intertwine with each other, as they're not only going to be in the same world, but have a storyline that follows from Modern Warfare 2 directly into Warzone. Additionally, I know a lot of people are going to have their own gripes, but I personally don't have a ton of bad things to say. I know that's probably not what you were expecting, especially coming from someone that's played Warzone for the past 2.5 years, but it's true, and I think if you give the game a chance, you'll probably feel the same. And no, Activision is definitely not paying me to say this. Heck, they didn't even invite me to the Call of Duty Next event that they ran in Los Angeles with over 200 creators. Either way, let's dive directly into things with the main question everyone tends to ask: how does the game actually feel? From what I've already played within the beta, I can say the following. The game is definitely a little bit slower than Modern Warfare, but I think the way they've slowed it down is actually a good thing. Anytime I was playing the first Modern Warfare, I felt I'd literally spawn in, maybe get a kill, and die all within 10 seconds or less. This game has much less of that. In fact, it feels like they've kind of hit the pacing spot on, especially when playing the new knockdown and prisoner rescue modes. Between the laughs with friends and some absolutely clutch moments, it's really been a great time. I can definitely recognize that some people have been having issues with the fluidity of the movement. However, let's not forget this is still a beta. There's going to be a lot of quality of life changes before the product finally ends up in consumers' hands. The top problem I think a lot of people have been having seems to be that there's a lack of slide canceling. Now, while I think they did that on purpose, there's technically still a way you can do it. The only problem is it doesn't work all the time. If you're curious as to how to slide cancel in Modern Warfare 2, feel free to check out my settings video at the end of this one. It's definitely going to help a lot of you out, even on those older generation consoles. Aside from that, one thing I think is very confusing for most people, and definitely was for myself as well, is the Gunsmith. Call of Duty themselves released a video on this already on their YouTube channel, but I think it did a pretty bad job explaining how things worked. Allow me to attempt to clear things up. See, in Modern Warfare 2, you have a base weapon. Well, you have a lot of base weapons. Within those base weapons, you have different versions of those weapons called receivers. The receivers can take a weapon that's naturally an assault rifle like an M4 and turn it into an LMG, an SMG, or even a battle rifle. However, with that in mind, they've also changed the way you unlock attachments for these guns, but trust me, it's a good thing. See, each receiver has a specific set of attachments you can unlock that fit specifically with that receiver. However, if you want to throw on a sight that doesn't come from that receiver, you'll need to first level up a different receiver within that same base weapon to unlock said attachment. The nice thing is, if you have any confusion on how to get a specific attachment, Infinity Ward has nicely enough given us a progression tree that shows any and all attachments you might be looking for. So while it's going to be a bit confusing at first, you can kind of think of it this way. Specific receivers have specific attachments, but if you level up other receivers within that base gun, take the M4 as the base weapon and the M16 as the receiver of that weapon for an example, you can use the attachments that come on the M16 on the base M4 or any other receivers that weapon may have. The cool thing is, a lot of these base weapons have like 5 different receivers, meaning there's going to be a ton of options when it comes to attachments that can completely change how a weapon is used. Yeah, that was actually still a bit confusing, but definitely better than what we were told in Call of Duty's explanation. However, the big thing that everyone has seemed to miss, including myself in my recent videos, is that loadout weapons, not including perks, will be purchasable at buy stations throughout Al Mazrah, the new Warzone 2 map. That's why when you go to a buy station, it gives you the option to buy weapons. These are your personally created classes, so it's actually not too big of a deal, and I actually think it's great to put everyone back onto a level playing field without perks. But who knows? Maybe they'll end up on the ground like they did in Black Ops 4's Blackout Battle Royale. And honestly, I hope not. Moving past those two massive confusing gripes that I've been seeing from most people, I really haven't been running into any issues. Of course, there's always the same conversation each year about skill-based matchmaking, but on PS5, with everyone on the same playing field and VPNs, from what I know, not being an option, I've been having little to no issue with my matches. Now, of course, I'm not running around like a chicken with its head cut off, but that's because I recognize the change in the way the game was created and how it was intended to be played. So as long as most people can begin to actually adapt and not be stuck in the same slump of constantly playing the exact same way and expecting a different result, which I realize is asking a lot from, well, the Call of Duty community, I think people are going to have a lot of fun in this game. Oh, and did I mention I've actually been playing on controller? Yeah, I whipped out a scuffed controller I bought ages ago just to play the beta on PS5. So I'm sure people are wondering, Expel, are you finally seeing the problems we all face with aim assist never working? And truthfully, no. It works fine. In fact, it feels just as unbelievably strong in this game as it did in Modern Warfare 2019. It's fine. Just make sure, as I said before, you get those settings tuned in. I'll be sure to update you all on my controller journey as to how you can ensure you're getting the most out of Warzone's AI aiming they've given us in the future. Now, for Warzone 2, while I wish I could give more of an opinion, here's what I can tell you thus far. As for negatives, I think the looting is going to be quite a bit clunky. For controller players, it's definitely going to take some time to look through any dead bodies, but I think there's a reason why they chose to go with this looting and user interface style. I don't think their intentions were completely about making it easier to use. See, the more items that are actually laying on the ground, the more lag a game server will have. This means to fully optimize the game for those older generation consoles that everyone's still playing on, which is fine, but is kind of a problem whenever you're playing newer gen games, making looting happen via pop-up boxes actually lowers the amount of lag or frame rate issues a player will have. So while we'd love to have this loot on the ground, it's in the end actually going to benefit players on console a great amount. I do also think I'm not going to be a huge fan of the new gulag, however. While I think it's pretty cool that you have to fight the enemy with a random teammate, we don't actually have all the ins and outs of how that works. First, can two actual teammates end up fighting each other in the gulag since it places you with a random person to fight the enemy with? Also, why are there AI bots in the gulag? It honestly feels a bit annoying, and while it was meant to be there as a distraction, I don't think that's the place you want to deal with a distraction. But hey, I guess if you're going to lose the gulag, you can still get bought back by your teammates. As for the map, I really don't see a problem with it. It's pretty big for 102 players, but I'm hoping that's not where it's going to cap out. I do love the scalability of it. I think that jumping from roof to roof is going to be pretty cool, but aside from that, without actually having played the map, I can't give too much more of an opinion. I'm definitely excited to hop in on November 16th, or maybe if they do another playtest and Activision wants to invite me, I'd love to jump in then. But either way, if you found some value in this video, I'd appreciate it if you subscribe. But more importantly, make sure you get your beta settings right with the video on your screen.